Hey everybody, welcome to Pack 1 Pick 1 number 218 on the Mantle Leek. I'm John as always, and we're here with the fancy new camera and another pack of Throne of Eldraine next week. It's going to be a little bit of a different pack of Throne of Eldraine, but this week we're still going to be on good old Throne. So we're going to open this up, see what's in it, and see what we would take Pack 1 Pick 1 if this was a draft. Now each week over at patreon.com/MantleLeek, I take all of the patrons at $5 and above, throw them into a spreadsheet, randomize them up, and pick somebody for all the cards to go to, or some of the cards, none of the cards, whatever you happen to want. And this week they're going to go to Squeaky El Lobo. So we're going to crack this pack open, see what's in it, and see what we'd take Pack 1 Pick 1 if this was a draft. As well, bear with me, the autofocus gets a little bit funky. If I turn it off, I lose frames for some reason. So bear with me. Up first is Mantle of Tides. Mantle of Tides is a single blue for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+2. You can auto-equip it if you draw your second card that turn, and otherwise you equip it for 3. It's a relatively mediocre card, even in the blue-red deck. It's one of the reasons the blue-red deck never really took off for me, outside of those rare occurrences, because the common payoffs aren't really that great. You really got to get the uncommon ones, or even better, the rare ones. So this one, not typically playing it, let alone first picking it. Raging Redcap is 2 and a red for a creature goblin knight. It's a 1/2 with double strike. It's got its place. It's a decent little creature. It does things. It holds swords really well. It's not a first pick. Up next is Lonesome Unicorn. Lonesome Unicorn is 4 and a white for a creature unicorn. It's a 3/3 vigilance, but you could also pay 2 and a white for Rider in Need, which is a sorcery, which makes a 2/2 white knight with vigilance. Totally fine card. I've played a large number of these. Never ever a first pick. Up next is Lost Legion. Lost Legion is 1 black for a creature Spirit Knight. It is a 2/3, and when it ETBs, you get to scry 2. It's, again, fine. I've played a fair number of these, but I'm never really picking these past the early pack, or I'm taking the mid pack at the earliest, I would say. Up next is Fell the Pheasant. Fell the Pheasant is 1 and a green for an instant. Deal 5 damage to target flyer. Doesn't kill it, deals 5, usually kills it, but I always make that mistake. And you also make a food. It's fine. It's a sideboard only card. You're going to take this real late in the pack. You should be able to get it real late in the pack, and you generally shouldn't be main decking it. Up next is Fling. Fling is 1 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you must sacrifice a creature. You deal damage to any target equal to that creature's power. Yeah, there's some cute things, like you could block and cast Righteousness and then cast Fling, but you'd have to be playing Righteousness and playing Fling, and I don't really recommend you do either. Not a first pick, and typically not very playable. Scalding Cauldron, I guess, is our first pick at the moment. Scalding Cauldron is a single generic mana for an artifact. Pay 3, tap, and sack it to do 3 damage to target creature, not any target, just target creature. It's colorless, it keeps you open, it kills an amount of the format. It's a totally fine card. I'll play usually at least 1 of these, maybe even 2 sometimes. I hope, sincerely hope it's not the first pick, but in this pack, I think it currently is. Up next is Barrow Witches. Barrow Witches is 4 and a black for a creature human warlock. When it ETBs, you get to return a knight from your graveyard to your hand. It's okay if you have a lot of knights. If you don't, you probably don't want to be playing a 5 mana 3/4. But if you're black-white or if you're black-red, this is a totally fine card. But you pick it much later than Pack 1 Pick 1. Our next common is a Corridor Monitor, 1 and a blue for an artifact creature construct. It's a 1/4. When it ETBs, it untaps an artifact or a creature. I've used this a few times now to untap a Charmed Sleep creature, and it's been really nice to do that. I've played this card way more than it deserves to be played. It just fits into a number of the blue decks where you want to have some sort of control, and I like this a little bit more than the Crashing Drawbridge, because sometimes I can get in for 1 or 2 or 3 damage with this. That being said, it's a very, 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 very late pick, and definitely on the filler level. Our next common is Garen Brig. Our last common? Yeah, our last common is Garen Brig Paladin. Garen Brig Paladin is 4 and a green for a creature giant knight. It's a 4/4 with adamant, so if you pay 3 green into this, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Totally solid card. Goes great in the mono green decks or the heavy green decks, because this is a 5/5, is terrifying. Even as a 4/4, it's pretty darn annoying. It would probably be a first pick in this pack as well, because this pack has been pretty mediocre in the common area. We could keep it in frame, but let's see what the uncommons do. Our first uncommon, I think, blows both of our commons out of the water, so I don't think we're actually even going to keep those in frame anymore. Steel Claw Lance. Steel Claw Lance is black-red for an artifact equipment. It's gives the equipped creature +2/+2. You can equip for 3, or you can equip a knight for 1. If you're black-red, you're going to have a ludicrous number of knights. You're going to have those rampaging red caps, those weaselback red caps, etc. And this is going to make them very, very, very scary. And then if your opponent uses their bake into a pie on your 1-drop that is a 3/3 at the moment, you still have the Lance. It's a solid card. It's not my favorite thing to first pick because it's kind of putting us into a color combination right away, which I don't think is where you want to be in Eldraine, but it's by far the best card in this pack so far. Revenge of the Ravens is 3 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This card can be super obnoxious. It's not as backbreaking as IGI was, and of course even that was an arena thing, and even this to an extent has been an arena thing. This card's good, like, don't get me wrong, but there was of course that early time in arena where people were like, I've got 3 Revenge of Ravens, and that just doesn't really happen anymore. The card's fine. It goes in a large number of black decks, but you do have to be ready to side it out. There's going to be a lot of decks that are going to go, oh, Revenge of Ravens, cool, mill you for 4, mill you for 4, mill you for 4, or Revenge of Ravens, oh, that's cool, attack with my 6/6. I take 1, you gain 1, take 6. So there's a lot of cases where Revenge of Ravens just doesn't quite do it. So I'm actually not a huge fan of first picking it. I'd like to be in that controlling deck that knows that it wants it already, but we can have it in frame for the time being, but I think I'm still in the Lance. Our last uncommon doesn't really change my decision here. Frogify. Frogify is 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura, and it turns a creature into a 1/1 blue frog with no abilities whatsoever. They lose all their abilities. It's decent removal. A lot of people were down on this. I think because we had basically this card in War of the Spark, but of course +1/+1 counters were everywhere in War of the Spark. They aren't everywhere in this set, and so Frogify is much better. It's a totally fine card. There are some packs where I would first pick it. I still don't think I'm taking it over the Lance though. Our rare is an interesting one. Folio of Fancies. Didn't we just have a Folio of Fancies at some point? Folio of Fancies is 1 and a blue for an artifact. Players have no maximum hand size. I never remember that that's a thing. Pay XX, tap. Each player draws X cards. Pay 2 and a blue, tap. Each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand from their library into their graveyard. This card's a straight up bomb. One of the cards that I was most wrong about. I thought it was awful. I thought that there was no way you were going to have enough time to mill with this, which turns out it doesn't actually take that long. And as well, the correct way is to actually make your opponent draw a whole lot of cards. That's one thing that I was actually really iffy on was, I don't want to make my opponent draw cards to mill them out. But the secret is you make them draw like 6 when they have 12 cards in their library, towards the end of the game. We're talking very late in the game at this point. On their end step, and then on your upkeep, you mill them for 6 because they have 6 in hand. There's 12 cards. They have no cards left. Doesn't matter that they drew a bunch because they're just dead. Card's great. It's definitely a bomb. Don't pick it on Magic Arena. I mean, still pick it on Magic Arena, but on Magic Arena, they've screwed the bots up so badly that you can take a folio and you will never see a piece of mill whatsoever because they removed that archetype. It doesn't exist on Magic Arena anymore. But in the real world, I think this is a pretty easy folio. We've got a forest and an ad card there. So I'm on the folio here. If I'm on Magic Arena and I'm really desperate to hit gold or platinum or diamond or mythic or something, I think the correct pick is to actually take the Steel Claw Lance. But I'm on folio. Let me know what you would take in the comments down below. The folio, the revenge, the Steel Claw, something else. And let me know anything else you want to let me know down there. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me over on Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. You can find me at patreon.com/ShamanAleek, where, like Squeaky El Lobo, if you donate at the $5 level or above each month, you get a chance to get all the cards, none of the cards, some of the cards, whatever you want. I'm not going to send you cards you don't want. You can always go over to Inked Gaming and use the promo code MANALEEK10, all one word, 10 is the number, to get 10% off your order. And of course, the easiest way to help out is to like, share, and subscribe. If you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, though, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.